Butter was good. Then it was bad. Then it was good again. Some people think of it as a miracle gut health cure. What I know is that I've wanted to make butter ever since I read Little House in the Big Woods when I was a kid. I always wanted to do it. It just fascinated me that you could turn cream into butter. So that is what I'm going to do today. I'm going to be making butter two ways. The first way is going to be cultured butter, where I will ferment the cream. And then I will do just a regular sweet cream butter without the fermentation, without the culturing, and compare the two. And I'm also going to try to infuse one of the butters with some chives. Equipment, you need a way to churn the butter. I've seen people use a food processor. I've seen people use a stand mixer. I'm going to be using this little butter churn that I bought on Amazon. It came with the paddles and stuff, so it wasn't very expensive, so I wanted to try it. I kind of wanted that old-fashioned feel anyway. So I'm doing a traditional ferment, which I'll be getting to in just a moment here. First, for our cream, for both kinds, I'm going to be using this. I like this kind of whipping cream. It's got a high butter fat. It's low pasteurized. So if you're going to make butter, you can't use ultra pasteurized, and we can't boil the cream first, because heating it to 180 degrees like we do for yogurt is going to denature the proteins. I do talk about that in my yogurt video, my yogurt history video, that heating the milk ahead of time denatures the proteins. It helps make the yogurt more creamy. We don't want that for butter. So we can't boil the milk. You can't use ultra pasteurized. It won't work as well. The other thing we're going to do for the fermented is have a yogurt starter. So this is my homemade yogurt, but you can use whatever starter you like. This is 3 tablespoons. This is 24 ounces. This has been sitting out on the counter for about an hour. I just wanted it to warm up a little bit before I added it to my starter. This will just help it culture a little faster. Before I pour it all together, I'm just gonna whisk this so the yogurt starter is blended nicely, but I don't want to whisk it too hard because I don't want it to whip up. So just a little gentle whisk there. I'm using a wide mouth jar. A lot of times if you see other videos of people making cultured butter, they just add their yogurt right to their whatever bottle they're using. But I'm actually going to use this jar, which I sterilize with some boiling water. And then I'm going to cover it with cheesecloth. That just gives it more room to breathe. I'm going to pour this in here. I'll pour this one in, but I'm gonna have to get a longer whisk. Okay, so I'm just gonna stir this. It doesn't need to be whisked again because I already whisked part of it with the yogurt to get it smooth. Just need to blend it. Now I'm just gonna put my cheesecloth over with the jar thing here to hold it in place. So that will let the gas escape without letting a lot of stuff get in there. So this just needs to sit for about 24 hours at room temp, and that will allow it to ferment the way we want for butter. So butter has been around for thousands of years. In fact, it has a very similar background as my yogurt, in that nomads who carried milk in the animal skins got butter as well as yogurt sometimes. It probably depended on how much cream was involved. So that movement churned it, and the milk separates and you get butter. So thousands of years go by, and then in probably about the 1970s and 1980s, butter got a very bad name. So they linked saturated fat, which butter is high in, to cardiovascular disease and increasing the risk of heart attack. So everybody's like, can't eat butter, that's bad, that's bad. And then margarine, which had already been around, but it took hold, and everybody was eating margarine instead of butter. And what happened was, after a couple of decades of this, they realized that the trans fats in margarine were worse for you than the saturated fat from butter. And so when we're talking about trans fats, we're talking about the artificial kind, that the partially hydrogenated vegetable oil. The trans fats do occur naturally in some animal products, but we're not talking about that. We're talking about the artificial kind that they realized were causing a far more buildup and quicker buildup in our arteries than saturated fat that occurs naturally in butter and milk and animal products. So and then with the rise of diets like the Atkins diet and keto diet, the butter came back in a big way. So butter is back, and in addition to helping with a satisfaction in our diet, it's satiating, it provides a lot of energy. Butter can be a part of a very healthy diet. But what are people talking about? I keep seeing gut health miracle. I've seen many social media posts about butter fixing our gut. Why are they saying that? It's because of butyrate. Butyrate actually got its name from butter because butter is high in it, but butyrate and butyric acid. So what's the deal? Butyrate is an important part of our gut health. It helps restore our gut lining. It supports our gut cells. It controls inflammation. It is very important. But is butter the only way to get it? No. Is butter the best way to get it? Not really. It's high in it. The thing is, you have to eat a ton of butter to get the amount that you need for your overall gut health, and we don't want to do that. Plus, butyrate is produced in our lower intestine by the fermentation of fiber and resistant starches, and that is the best way to get the gut health supporting butyrate that we need to control that lower digestive tract inflammation. When you eat butter, it's mostly going to be digested in your upper digestive tract, so you're still going to get some benefit, but we really need that fiber and resistant starch, which is why I talk about those things and many other places about how as we're building our gut health back, we need to make sure we're incorporating those things into our diet. And that is where butyrate comes from. So, like all things online, don't just look at it and say, oh, miracle for gut health, have butter. We need an overall healthy, balanced diet with lots of different things in it. There's not going to be one thing that's going to provide you your gut health cure. So let's take butter for what it is. A fat that provides energy, satiation, and is quite tasty and great for cooking. And who doesn't like butter? Butter? It's been 24 hours that this has been fermenting here on the counter. So you can kind of see it's a little bit foamy. And that's exactly what we want. We don't want it to be super foamy. We just want that little bit of foam. That's just the CO2 that releases while it's fermenting. So this thickened up a little bit. I'm going to give it a little bit of a stir just so I can have all the parts go together when I pour it. Go ahead and pour this into my jar. We want this to be about halfway. For best results, we want to churn our cream at about room temperature. So I'm looking for it to be over 65 degrees Fahrenheit, but we want it to be below 73 or so. The reason for that is if it's too cold, you can churn it will take much longer for the milk solids to release the liquid. But if it's too hot, you'll get to that release part, but then the milk solids will start to melt and go back into your liquid. So it'll emulsify, and so you won't get that separation for the butter. Okay, so we've got it about 67, 68 degrees. So we're gonna go ahead and start churning it. Okay, I'm gonna add my paddle here. So if you had cultured it and there was any bad bacteria in there, you would have seen it, kind of like I talked about in my yogurt video, but you would see pink or gray or brownish streaks in it if there was any bad bacteria. So this looks good. We're gonna go ahead and start churning. This should take about 15 minutes or so, I think. I'm just gonna try to keep it as a steady speed as I can while I do it. Taking a quick break to show you that in about 10 minutes things are starting to happen here. So this is getting exciting. I'm gonna keep going. You see that See that yellow there forming? It's getting very close now. Okay, I don't know exactly how to tell when it's done, but we've got a lot of butter and there's a lot of liquid. I think that there's only going to be a little bit more butter than liquid in this process. But the churn is going very loose. So I think that's there's no resistance. So I don't think it's doing too much anymore. I'm going to check it. Okay. So we have a lot of butter there and in here. But before we do anything else, we have to separate our butter and the liquid. Get that. Okay. Now we can pour this in. Wow, look at that. Oh, this is exciting. Okay. It's a little bit soft. So like I said, I am going to refrigerate this just a little bit before we use the paddles on it. And I'm not going to squeeze it too tightly, but we do want to get as much liquid out as we can. Make sure your hands are clean, just gentle, but you don't want to squeeze the butter through your cheesecloth. Very nice. And so actually I had a little bit more milk, so to make it more complete butter, I'm actually going to go ahead and churn the other one while this cools off. All right, my second little mini batch here came out a lot faster. Probably only took about 10 minutes, maybe because of there's a lot less. So I poured the buttermilk through. I'm just going to add it to my other one. Okay, it looks nice, doesn't it? That one's been chilling for about 15 minutes. So I'm just going to add this in so that they can both, I want them to firm up because we're not done yet. It looks like butter, but it actually needs to get washed, and that will get rid of the rest of any buttermilk that's still in there. But I don't want it to fall apart. So we're going to chill these for about 20 minutes or so just to get them a little warm, just putting these together. And so we will be back. Okay, so at this point, you're ready to wash the butter. But now I'm going to be honest, I over-chilled this fermented batch while cleaning up, so it was really firm and hard to work with. But since I made a second batch of the sweet cream right after, this technique is much clearer to see. The washing technique is going to be much clearer to see. So let me just jump to that one and show you the right way to do it. So now see, we can see it was like liquid, and now we're starting to get the separation. So what happens now that I've done a couple of these is that it gets hard to churn, and you can see like all that butter built up there. It gets hard to churn, and then when it's ready, it gets really easy because the butter is just getting pushed around on the paddles. You're not going to get any more. Okay, now we're gonna pour this out. There we go. Look at that. That is a lot of butter. Squeeze out some of the buttermilk. We just don't want to squeeze. So if you see the butter coming through, that's when you can stop trying to squeeze out the buttermilk this way. So we're washing this butter. We add very cold water, like kind of ice cold water to it, and then we just knead it and turn it over, and that will release the buttermilk as we're doing this process. And as the water gets cloudy, you can change it, because what we're looking for is for the water to be clear. As we're getting all the buttermilk out of the butter, it should be nice and soft and pliable. So as you do this, you're going to change out your water, pour out the cloudy water, put in new cold water, continue doing this until the water is clear. I'm on my last round here of washing the butter. So I would say don't refrigerate it for too long, or let it warm up a little bit more. But yeah, this one's perfect. All right, we're good. The water is clear. One thing about cooking is that your technique will usually improve as you do things. And so first time around, I'm not sure I had the technique of the washing perfect. I still got everything out. It took a little extra work because it was very firm. This one was much easier because I could actually fold it and push on it. There's not really any liquid coming out of this one, whereas the other one I still had some liquid coming out for a little bit. So I was kind of re-kneading it with the paddles. This one is going much smoother. So now we just want to get that shine. Yeah, so don't refrigerate for too long. Lesson learned there for my part. This one is going so much smoother. That's just the way it is when you do pretty much anything. It's like, you know, we make these things on video for the first time. It's not always the perfect technique. This one, second round, going much better. I don't think the fermentation had anything to do with the difference. I think it was just me not really knowing what to do on the first one. Whereas this one, I'm like, okay, now I know how this all works. But yeah, there's no liquid coming out of this. So at this point, we can add our fillings. But actually, I'm gonna set a little bit aside to try plain. Not gonna, but this one I want to make a little flavored butter, so let's get that going. So I'm just gonna keep this very, very simple and just do a chive butter. So I'm also gonna add some salt. That was probably a little less than 1/4 teaspoon. And then I have some chopped chives. I'm gonna add in, I've seen pictures where people like fill the butter with their herbs and chives, but I'm just gonna do kind of a lighter. We'll see how this looks. So you work it in, and then you start kneading this in so it mixes throughout. Maybe I could add a little bit more. I can barely see them, so I'm gonna add a little bit more because we want to chive butter. Okay. All right. So that's the good thing about making your own butter this way, is that if you want an infused butter, you can totally control what is it infused with. You don't have to worry about those ingredients having anything you don't want. So I'm just gonna do this. Yeah, like I said, I've seen pictures where it's like basically the butter looks green, but I don't want it to be too chivy. Maybe if you're using a lot of different kinds of herbs. I've seen also one that I will probably try next time, and it was a honey and cinnamon infusion. I just didn't want to, since honey's a liquid, I didn't really want to mess with that on my first go around here. So yeah, I think we're good. And butter's getting a little bit soft, so I'm gonna call that good. All right, our butter, I had it in the refrigerator to chill it a little bit. So let's slice. Going to try some on my homemade lentil bread from the previous episode, which I still have some left. I'm so excited that I was able to do this and get it to come out finally. All right, let's try our homemade butter on my homemade lentil bread. Well, it tastes like butter. It's really good. I thought it would be more tangy because it was cultured, but it just pretty much just tastes like regular butter. It's really good though. It's nice and sweet and creamy. I got my chive and my sweet cream butter just a little bit here on the side that I saved. So I'm gonna try both of these, just the plain. This has no salt or anything. And then the chive one. Make sure I get some chives in there. Like I said, I didn't put a ton of chives, so you could do a lot more if you want more of a chive butter. All right, the sweet cream first. So even without salt, this is really good. Just a nice sweet butter, just exactly what it sounds like, sweet cream butter. Nice light flavor, very nice. A little lighter flavor than the fermented one. That did have a little bit, now that I taste both, a little bit of a tang to it compared to this. So a more complex flavor in the fermented one, but this is just a nice sweet butter flavor that I like a lot. And now our chive infused butter. That is really good. Adding a little flavor in there if you want a flavored butter, it'd be great for vegetables or meat. I have a garlic bread. If you're gonna make something kind of garlic bread, it'd be great for squash, for mashed squash, especially the mashed potato squash like I showed in a recent video. Just a really nice flavor. I didn't go too strong. You could go much stronger depending on what you're going to use it for. You could use other flavors like minced garlic. You could do like a dill lemon. Like I said, there was like a cinnamon honey. Very, very, very nice. And you can control the exact amount of infusion flavor and ingredients that you want. Definitely like that. So overall verdict, I really enjoyed making the butter. It wasn't really cheaper and obviously it took time, but it was just fun to do. And if you like to have a lot of homemade things, I definitely recommend it. It's just like anything. It's that personal satisfaction of creating something. I have a friend who makes like all her own clothes and like bags and stuff like that, and like obviously that takes up a lot of time, but she loves doing it and she loves getting her final product. And that's how I am about cooking and creating new things. So making the butter, I'll definitely do it again. I'm glad I bought the little churn. It was easy, especially when I didn't ferment it. It would just pour the whipped cream in and churn until it turned into butter, and then you can infuse it any way you like, and it tasted great. So definitely we'll do it again. It didn't take that long, and the churning wasn't hard. It took a little bit of time. Definitely fun for kids to do, I think, especially if you want to have them learn about kind of the old-fashioned way, well, really old-fashioned, obviously, before our times of that people do, especially if they read the books like I did, like if they're reading in the Little House on the Prairie books, and you see all the work they have to do to get anything. Great exercise in just learning how things work and where butter comes from, how it's made. It's really simple.